YouTube लाईव्ह झालेला आहे.
So I'll start now.
Yes.
Namaskar, good evening everyone. Welcome to the third day of our Earth Science Week. Yesterday was World Postal Day, celebrated on 9th October, which commemorates the Universal Postal Union establishment in 1874. It's a day to recognize the vital role of postal services in connecting the world. Amid this celebration, we are exploring the fascinating world of philately, the art of stamp collecting. Philately, which not only preserves postal history but also unites people across borders, cultures, and time through stories told by postage stamps. All these sessions which we are studying can also be viewed on Mission Devrai YouTube channel. Today, we also dive into the fascinating world of philately related to climate change. Now, I'll request Dr. Anthony Vegas, Associate Professor and Vice Dean, School of Earth, Ocean and Atmospheric Sciences, Goa University, to introduce our speaker for the day. Over to you, sir.
Yes. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this third day session on climate change. It is my proud privilege to give you an introduction or speak about my good friend and mentor, Dr. M.R. Ramesh Kumar, who was the chief scientist who retired as the chief scientist and the head of the Physical Oceanographic Division of NIO. Dr. Ramesh Kumar has visited many countries from Antarctica to various parts of Europe like UK, Germany. He's been to Italy, besides China, Japan, Greece on different assignments as an UNDP fellow, postdoctoral fellowship, as well as for workshops and conferences. As part of his travel and research cruises, he has been on several oceanographic cruises, both in the Arabian Sea, Bay of Bengal, as well as the Southern Indian Ocean. He also recently participated in the national program called the Arabian Sea Monsoon Experiment, abbreviated as ARMEX. As regards his teaching experience, he has been taking classes for MSc students in meteorology and oceanography, for students of Goa University, Cochin University, as well as subjects like remote sensing for BE students of Goa Engineering College, PCC Engineering College. He's also taken lectures on for the National Natural Remote Sensing System, where he's trained scientists, which was conducted by NIO, as well as for several BA, BSc, and MSc dissertations. As regards his awards, he was awarded the N.K. Panikkar Memorial Award for obtaining the first rank in MSc Meteorology from Cochin University of Science and Technology in the year 1981. He was awarded the P.R. Fisher-Roti Memorial Award for the year 2003 in the field of remote sensing. He is also the fellow of the Indian Geophysical Union. His research interests include air-sea interaction, monsoons, cyclones, climate change, and Antarctic oceanography. He has, to his credit, more than 80 research publications, both in national as well as international journals. He has guided several students for their BTech, MSc, MTech, as well as PhD from various colleges as well as universities. He has been invited and given more than 70 talks at various national, international seminars and conferences. As regards his role in philately, he has published several articles both in scientific journals and philatelic bulletins of various philatelic societies on a wide range of topics. Besides giving talks on philatelic topics like on Antarctica, biodiversity, and Goa's culture and heritage, he's also conducted workshops and quizzes for school students and public at various places all over the country, and published several philatelic articles in different print media on several themes on a regular basis. He is a life member of several philatelic societies all over India and the former president of the Goa Philatelic and Numismatic Society. He's won several awards both at the district, state, as well as the national level too. His themes on philatelic collection are based on Antarctica, astronomy, biodiversity in India, cinema, dead letter office, geographic indicators, Goa's culture and heritage, postal history of Cochin, Portuguese India and Travancore, unsung heroes, maritime heritage, weather and climate. My pleasure to present before you Dr. Ramesh Kumar. Please take over, sir. Thank you.
Can you see now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, let me thank Vaishnavi for an excellent idea about the philately and my good friend, Anthony Vigas, for introducing so nicely, both from academic point of view and from philately point of view. And I'm also happy to see several of the members who are actually spread, Nicole Sequeira, and so many people. So let me start with the climate change. In fact, I was thinking of showing two videos. One, what is actually climate change and what will happen in future if there is actually 3 degrees change in future. But then I was asked not to show such videos because I don't know, it may hang up or whatever. So the first slide I am going to show is actually on Antarctica. In fact, Antarctica is a good place to study climate change for the simple reason it's a pristine area and there is hardly any human beings other than the researchers over there. So we feel it's a human intervention or the human this one which actually makes the life on the earth not good. So if you look at Antarctica, there are several things which are actually there, and all the adjectives about Antarctica is good enough, whether it's the coldest, driest, windiest, highest altitude continent anywhere in the world, 90% of the world's ice is over there, 78% of the earth's freshwater is over there, and there are several animals, for example, like say penguin, leopard, seal, you name anything. And so many things are there. Now, in a global change, a global warming scenario or a climate change scenario, every year or every this one we see there are several things happening. I'll show you a couple of slides later. So I'll go to the next slide. And my talk is done like this. First of all, I'll mention what is climate change, which I have taken from actually maybe I think IPCC or maybe some of this one, and what are the causes of climate change. I'll mention a brief about some greenhouse gases and greenhouse effect, which I've been teaching. In fact, I have been giving climate change talks in various schools and colleges too. Recently I had been to that Miranda House in New Delhi, several colleges in New Delhi, where I have been giving talks. And also I'll mention a little bit about what are the indicators of climate change. How do we know there is a climate change is happening? And then later I'll talk a little bit of impacts of climate change. In fact, the impact of climate change is in each and everything. Whether you look at agriculture, if you look at the biodiversity, if you look at ecosystems, either on the land or the marine ecosystems, including heritage. For example, I'll show you a little bit. And how does it affect the tourism? And one of the most important things which I wanted to show is actually water. How does it affect? And also, what can we do? How can we mitigate it? Or how can we adapt ourselves? We, or maybe the plants, or maybe the animals or whatever. And there are several important days which we do. For example, like say 16th of September is actually celebrated as World Ozone Day. We have actually WMO Day. They have World Water Day. So there are several days which are related with climate days. I'll just show a few of the stamps. And recently I read an article. Ocean is not only a problem. Ocean also has a solution for the climate change. I will show a couple of stamps on that. And further is actually the sustainable development. And finally, this climate change is not an individual problem. It is not a problem of the state of Goa or not the problem of India. It's actually like a global problem. So there should be an international collaboration, whether it can be the IPCC or the committee of the parties, or like say COP1 or whatever, like that you can think. There are several declarations starting from maybe 1972 onwards, we can see. So many things are there. And further to that, I'll just start with the first slide. So it is basically dominated by the human influences. I don't want to spell it out again and again. If you look at 100 meteorologists or the climate scientists, 97 people believe that it's actually the human who are responsible for that. That's why I said that Antarctica is a good place to study climate change. And what happens actually basically because it is associated with our energy use, not on a global scale, but it can be at the local scale or a regional scale. And also the land use, land change patterns have actually substantially changed the whole scenario. And also, no doubt there have been progress in monitoring and understanding. For example, if you look at from the International Geophysical Year of 1959, we started actually measuring carbon dioxide at Mauna Loa, Hawaii by Dr. Charles Keeling. In fact, nowadays it's called actually Keeling curve. I won't go into that. And also we have to plan, adapt, and mitigate the effects of climate change. Now, I'm taking a famous quotation from Tony Blair, who was actually the ex-British Prime Minister from 1997 to 2007. He very clearly mentions it's too serious for the world any longer to ignore it. Mind you, this was actually published long back, and we have also a cover of that. And what all things we can do. We need to have green power, he mentioned, and he also mentioned about reduce, reuse, and recycle, and also save fuels as well as save forests. This is actually a statement made by Tony Blair way back. So I just thought I'll put that quote to start with. And now one of the most important things when we think of actually climate change is actually what we call greenhouse gases. We have several greenhouse gases starting from carbon dioxide. For example, if you look at the atmosphere, the maximum thing we have in the atmosphere is actually nitrogen, oxygen, followed by argon. Then we have the variable gases like say carbon dioxide, methane, and ozone and water vapor, etc. We call it actually very, but nowadays these things have changed. This is basically because of the significant contributions from the transport, from the industrial process, from agriculture, from the deforestation, and the land use change. So I have put two stamps over here, one based on the ozone or ozone layer. The second is from Denmark, which mentions about the carbon dioxide. I have taken another important slide, which is actually very, cannot see very clearly, but I have put actually the main greenhouse gases, like say carbon dioxide, methane, and other things I have put. Basically, I wanted to stress the importance of this and their, let us say, presence in the atmosphere, how long they will be there in the atmosphere, maybe 100 years or 50 years or 1,000 years, etc. This is a very important concept which you should keep in mind. That is one aspect that's actually in the fifth column, and the last column we can see is actually its global warming potential. So some of the things which we should keep in mind is actually, even though we have put actually gases, these are some of the things which actually America used to say. They call it historic emissions, as if I didn't do, my father didn't do, my grandfather did it, so what? But it remains in the atmosphere for a prolonged period of time. That's actually the problem. So it may not die down during your time or your children's time. It may die down during the grandchildren's time. This is actually very dangerous time because we cannot repair the atmosphere, just like what we wanted to do, repair this one. So there's actually, and not only the atmosphere is not static. See, whatever somebody pollutes X or Y place, it will move according to the winds at that level and go the entire globe. So I'll come to that a little bit later. Another important thing is actually, it is because of this greenhouse gas in the atmosphere that keeps the earth warm. If there are no greenhouse gas in the atmosphere, you can see in the second, this one of Kiribati, you can see water comes from the sun. It's actually trapped by the atmosphere, especially by the greenhouse gases. And it is what keeps our earth warm, or else our earth would have been a very cold place where we could not have survived. So these greenhouse gases are necessary, no doubt, but it's the excess of these greenhouse gases, whether it's a carbon dioxide or methane or other gases, which keeps on warming it with the time, and that is what it makes it much more dangerous. Now, there can be several things. So I just put a few things. So I actually put a stamp on a transport, which is actually introduced by Department of Post, Government of India. It's actually double-decker bus, which you usually still see in Mumbai. And the other is actually the aviation, which also puts lots of things actually on the carbon footprint. And also I actually put a tram. This is actually from Calcutta. I just want to show the different transports. Another important thing which actually they say is actually ineffective use of actually agriculture. If you can see, there are no good practice in the agriculture. This can actually create lots of this one, whether actually the fishing or in the plowing or maybe in the tea sector. You can see some of the tea sector is actually definitely time long back. And also the industry. The industry, for example, the Thermal Power Corporation or this one, they puts actually a lot of pressure on the coal, you can see, and the steel industry has actually put a lot of things, and oil and natural gas. Each and every industry. There are a number of industries, but I only put a few stamps, and mostly I have tried to include the Indian stamps. And most of the stamps and the materials which I have put is actually, the top two are actually maxi cards of actually the double-decker bus as well as the tram. And other things are actually stamped. And I've also put a nice cancellation, which, not a cancellation, it's actually a cutout actually, which shows actually poultry as well as fishing. Both are definitely stamps. I won't go into those details later. Now, one of the most important indicators of actually climate change is actually there are lots and lots of things. For example, endangered species, whether it can be a lion, for example, in this, or a Dalmatian pelican, or harbor porpoise, or kiang. This migratory species contribute significant environmental benefits, such as the dispersal of the pollution, disease, pest control, and so many things. And it also serves the ecosystem and services, and also brings economic benefits, jobs, especially for example, people will like to go to Gir Forest actually in Gujarat to see actually the lions, or maybe other places also people like to go. Another set of migratory endangered species are actually Siberian crane, addax, and you can see so many things. Narwhal actually. So these are again endangered species. In fact, these are either becoming extinct or maybe move to other areas. Then also we have actually the hammerhead shark, Egyptian vulture, Andean flamingo, and Argali sheep. So this is actually a very, very dangerous trend that actually they are decreasing. Another important indicator of actually climate change is shrinking of the glaciers, especially in the European countries. The first time is actually of Switzerland, you can see. After the Industrial Revolution, the carbon dioxide has increased and the greenhouse emissions also substantially raised the temperatures. You can see the various lines, which actually very clearly shows from 1850 to 2008, how it is actually retreating, or let us say on the land in the Switzerland. And the second is actually the country of Canada. You can see how the things are actually changing of the glaciers. Another important thing which is actually the icebergs, which are surrounding the Antarctica region. Each and every year, there are several icebergs which are floating over the Antarctica, and they are actually carving off actually from the glaciers or the ice shelves. And they can different types of icebergs. I won't go into that, but they also in different size, shapes, etc. But they have been substantially melting. But this is happening on a very, very regular pattern now. And if you look at the mountain, this one, for example, I could have put Himalayas. I just thought about Himalayas, especially from the Nepal point of view. You can see there are several mountains, and most of the glaciers in the Himalayan region of actually Nepal mountainous terrain are actually melting at a very, very alarming rate. So the tourism over there, it affects the vulnerable communities like say Sherpa, etc., and also affects the rivers which are fed on that. For example, our Ganges and Brahmaputra will be directly affected. In fact, the NCPO, National Center for Polar and Ocean Research, considers Himalayas as actually the third pole after Arctic and Antarctic. This is the third pole they consider. And if the glaciers start melting, there have been a series of programs and projects on that. So if the glaciers are melting substantially, that will affect our riverine system, and it will affect our, let's say, agriculture and so many things. Another thing which we can see is actually there are several things. For example, in a global changing scenario, whether it is actually the butterflies, or the Andaman and Nicobar Islands, or maybe the rare fauna, especially in the northeast region, they will be either become extinct, or maybe rare, or maybe disappear altogether. So this is also a very, very dangerous trend. In fact, I had a couple of videos, but unfortunately, I'm not able to show them. And there have been a fantastic another miniature sheet. It very clearly shows over the Antarctica region how the various shelves are actually carving off. You can see one is actually a Larsen shelf. Actually, Antarctica is one of the driest places anywhere in the world. It's as dry as actually Sahara, and it takes several years for the snowfall to fall over it. And see, for example, the Larsen shelf, it took almost 12,000 years for it to form, but it started disintegrating in no time, maybe about 35 days. Then there is another shelf called Wilkins Ice Shelf. I won't go into that. There is actually George Ice. All of it has been separated out and actually now melting very fast. Another thing which can happen is that ocean and Antarctica is actually land, which can have actually profound influences actually on the salinity of the Arctic Ocean, which in turn can actually affect the Atlantic overturning of the circulation, and it may affect our ocean conveyor belt. I won't go into those details. There is another, this one actually to do with melting of sea ice over Arctic is actually the polar bear. The sea ice over Arctic is actually a habitat actually for the polar bear. If there is sea ice starts disappearing, and the impact of climate change first comes actually in the Arctic area, and then slowly comes to the other area. and 2100. The temperature over the Arctic is dangerous trend. So all the CAs over Arctic, it may have some positive effects, like say, for example, people from Alaska can go to Russia or whatever, but then it may not be a good idea to have that. So, but then it affects the ecology of that area. It affects so many things, especially over the Arctic area. It also affects the ecosystem of that area, whether it's actually deep sea creatures or maybe the whales or whatever. And these are actually the stamps of actually, one is from the Australian Antarctic territory, and the other is actually the British Antarctic territory, which shows the various species of whales. It's also very, very important. It may affect the basic of the food chain over Antarctica, what we call krill. So this is actually very, very high impact actually on that. And further to that, this actually done by the Department of Coast Government of India. They wanted to say that preserve the polar regions, whether it's Arctic or Antarctica. In fact, India has actually 3 research stations over Antarctica. The first one is Dakshin Gangotri, the second is Maitri, and the third is Bharati. So you can see of the second Indian station's cancellation Maitri on this, and these are the stamps which are over there. And recently I have read actually an article which mentions that 60 colonies of emperor penguins became extinct between 2018 to 2022. Remember, in 4 years only, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, not for 5 years, it starts this one, it became extinct. It's actually a very sad story. Mind you, emperor penguins are actually very important. And if the sea ice starts melting or decreasing on the Arctic region, the habitat of the polar bears will start decreasing, and in a stage they will become extinct. Another important thing which happens during a climate change scenario is actually what we get extreme events. So one of such extreme events are what we call a drought. So a drought is actually a prolonged period of time. For example, this year, I'll come to that a little bit later, we had actually almost drought-like situation in the month of August of 2023. So I just wanted to show a picture how the climate change will affect the drought scenarios, and especially in, let's say, a continent like Africa, which has actually serious repercussions. I also put actually Meghdut postcard in the center, where you can see nicely what will happen in a drought condition, especially from the agriculture point of view, and can have profound influence on the health, agriculture, economies, energy, and environment. And it puts more pressure, especially on the water scarcity, especially the world's population. For example, now India is #1 in the population point of view, and lots of places they don't get water, and a lot of people are also displaced, or they migrate from actually a drought area to a better area or whatever. Now let me come to my own pet topic of monsoons. You can see the first stamp is actually of Meghdut by Kalidasa. It's actually a fantastic stamp, you can see. And it very clearly mentions, I would call Kalidasa as the first meteorological forecaster or whatever. You could look at, and he wanted to send his, let us say, lover, who is actually in the Mount Kailas, to this one, what we call Meghdut. So it is actually nowadays these postcards of actually department posts are also called Meghdut, and it costs only 25 paise. If you look at the previous slide, you can see this is a Meghdut postcard. It costs only 25 paise. Only thing is actually there's an advertisement put over there. Only the other side can be used. So the concept of Meghdut has actually come, and this year was actually an El Nino year. If you compare the past 3 years, we had actually triple La Nina. 2020, 2021, and 2022 were actually a La Nina year. But this year, this is actually stamped from Peru. In fact, El Nino is nothing but actually the unusual or anomalous warming of actually the waters. You can see the stamp near the Peru coast. There's an anomalous warming of the sea surface temperature, so that it affects the fisheries over there. So this has a profound influence on that. And I have also put a map of actually the monsoon rainfall from 1st June up to 30th of September. You can see it is actually decreased by almost 6% deficit of the entire Indian subcontinent, and there are several meteorological subdivisions like say Kerala, interior Karnataka, eastern UP, and east and northeast India, Bihar, and a lot of other places. So just wanted to show you this type of extreme events are actually going to increase in a global warming or a climate change scenario. Another thing which we wanted to stress is actually the importance of cyclones. The warming of the oceans, especially because ocean absorb 90% is actually this one, which is actually happening. And you can also see the fueling or the intensity of the storms also has substantially increased. And it also affects actually both the wind speeds and the proportion of the storms, especially reaching out that area. I will just show you a middle picture, very clearly shows one particular year, which we called actually Year of the Oceans. And we wrote an article in the Times of India, where you can see there are 5 storms formed in the Arabian Sea as compared to 3 in the Bay of Bengal. usually Bay of Bengal gets actually more number of cyclones as compared to the Arabian Sea because the cyclogenesis parameters. I won't go into those details. Another important extreme event is what we call an intense rainfall event. This actually a stamp which I actually put over there. You can see nowadays, starting from maybe from Uttarakhand disaster of 2013, every year we have actually an intense rainfall event. By intense rainfall event, what I mean is actually if the rainfall is more than 10 centimeters in a day, or we can call it actually extreme rainfall event. Such events are actually increasing year by year, year by year. In fact, there was a study long back by Professor B.N. Goswami, who was at IIS, Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Then he shifted to IITM, Pune, and they published a fantastic paper actually on the extreme or the intense rainfall events over the central India. It was published in Science. And they showed that the effect of actually low and the moderate events are actually decreasing. The intense rainfall events and the heavy rainfall are actually increasing. They look at it actually for about 57 or 58 years or 50 years or more. And it was published in Science. Another thing which is happening during floods, for example, this year in Goa, the month of July had actually very active spell in the last quarter of actually July 2023. So such floods can occur, whether it's the Goa, and this actually stem from Liechtenstein, this one you can see. And very recently also we had actually, I will say about the glacial lake outburst. We call it GLOF. I will show. And another region where floods has been consistently coming actually over the Bay of Bengal. It can be of two reasons. One can be actually the unusual rainfall, or if the cyclone comes and hits, then again actually they have actually. So you can see there are two stamps of Switzerland as well as the Bangladesh, this one. And if you look at this picture, the people will be directly affected if, as I said, if there is actually the global warming or climate change scenario, and if the ice starts melting over the Arctic as well as Antarctica region, it will rise the sea level. And in addition to that, intense storms or the storm surges, all of this will affect or accentuate the erosion in the beaches. So I have actually put this one. The top one is actually Gopalpur at Orissa. The second one is actually Kollam, and we have the two beaches from Goa. One is actually Anjuna Beach and Bogmala Beach. You can see all these beaches won't be there at all. Either it will be eroded or it will be flooded. This is exactly the same is the case actually if you have the low-lying islands, whether it's the Andaman Nicobar Islands or maybe the Lakshadweep or islands like say Gan or even Maldives. In fact, Maldives wanted to be a part and parcel of actually, or wanted to be a state of Indian support in this one. But then they were really worried about actually the rising temperatures as well as the rising sea level. And further to that, it also affects the Himalayan lakes. Say for example, there's a threefold rise actually in the glacial lake outburst, which recently happened actually in Sikkim. You can see there are several lakes over Himalayas. We have actually Rupkund is there. Then there is actually Temoriri. Then we have actually Sela and also Sango, and also the Chandratal. So there are several lakes actually in the Himalayan region, which is actually going to be affected in a global warming scenario, or if there is actually the mountain glaciers melting. Further to that, it also affects the amphibians. In fact, whether it's actually, if you look at the Western Ghats, for example, the frogs, the lizards, the salamanders, so many things that actually very, very bad story for them. And it can actually reduce, or there will be a substantial decline, actually about in the 40% of the amphibians if you look at. It's actually a very sad story. Now, if you look at actually we had actually in New Delhi, the COP8, this one, which actually had to do with actually mangroves. You can see very, very important. And one major problem is actually the greenhouse gas emissions are much more higher. And especially the rich countries or the developed countries, they use the fossil fuels for their energy intensive lifestyle. So which is actually very bad, and they need to decrease their this one, but they keep on increasing. They say the usual, as I said, no, the atmosphere or the oceans are actually common. This one, it does not belong to common ecological space. The atmosphere does not belong to anybody, or the oceans do not belong to anybody. So such things, if it is actually utilized by the developed countries, and it can put pressure on the developing or underdeveloped countries like say Africa or other countries. So it is necessary that richer countries decrease their per capita emission and keep the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere at a very tolerable level. Now, I had actually done a study actually on the Statue of Liberty from the various philatelic point of view. And this is one of the most, let us say, the recognizable statue anywhere in the planet. And in 2012, there was actually a hurricane called Sandy. In fact, cyclones are called by different names. They are called cyclones in the Indian Ocean, they are called hurricanes in the Atlantic, and they are called typhoons in the Pacific. So a cyclone or hurricane Sandy, it inundated about 75% of the Liberty Island. And even though it didn't do much harm for the statue or its pedestal, but the entire area, there was actually a 77 million damage in that area, especially the Elias Island. And it can also have effect actually. I have put actually two Meghdut postcards. The second one is actually of the Shore Temple at Mamallapuram or Mahabalipuram in Tamil Nadu, and also the Tiruvallur statue, which is actually in the Swami Vivekananda Rock at Kanyakumari. So these two things also can get affected. For example, if there is actually a storm which hits actually the Tamil Nadu coast, which usually happens in the post-monsoon season, in the months of actually October, November, and December, this can actually have a tremendous impact, especially on the heritage. Not only elsewhere, we can have actually such effects happening over Tamil Nadu or maybe the Kanyakumari coast. Another important thing which I wanted to stress is actually the availability of water. With only 2% of the Earth's mass, and if you look at the water availability in India, this is actually what I have taken from the Times of India. They keep on publishing in every Saturday. There's a thing called Times Evoke. So I have taken from the Times of India, Times Evoke. You can see way back in 1947, we had about 6,042 cubic meter of water available. But if you look at 2021 or maybe by 2051, the amount of water is substantially reduced. And I have a stamp actually from Canada, which actually shows the mean precipitation over the entire globe. And the second stamp is actually made of India, which had actually celebrated in 2007 a water year. People started realizing the importance of water, and they started, let us say, rainwater harvesting, and several things are done. Now, what are things what we use for the water? You can see water can be used for irrigation purposes. For example, if you look at 2025 and what will happen in 2050, irrigation, domestic, industries, power, and others, and altogether how much it is needed, you can see the scenario is almost going to be double or better. Now, what can we do? There are several things which we can do. The first and the foremost is actually we can switch over from our fossil fuel to maybe renewable energy. For example, one is actually the solar energy which we can use, and then there is actually the wind energy which people can use. For example, people are thinking of actually wind farms even in the ocean. Then we have the hydroelectric power. In fact, most of the places like say Uttarakhand and other areas they have actually used. And also we can have actually the biomass energy. And these are actually stamps which are actually done by India, and there's actually a miniature sheet on that. Also, we have actually two old stamps actually of hydro. This one what we call Bakra Nangal, and the other is actually from China. China has actually done a fantastic advancements actually in the hydroelectric power and several things. But I wanted to show you there are different types of actually hydropower electric. It's not actually necessary that everything should be in the same fashion. One is called impoundment. The second is actually diversion. Then there is a pump storage. I won't go into those details. And you can have actually a dam, which can be used actually for a single house or a village, or you can have a huge dam, like say Bakra Nangal, or actually what is being done in China. Another thing which what we should do is actually we have to do a population control. For example, for every human being, he would like to have a car, he would like to have a house, he would like to have, so each of these things puts pressure on the available land or available, as you said, the common space or ecology. And India is number one now. In the current population of India is, as on October 7, 2020, this is actually 143 crore people and maybe more. And it is keeping on increasing. Another interesting thing what we should remember is actually the population density in India is actually 481 per square meter. I won't go into those details. Another important thing what we can do is actually we can have afforestation. This is one of the earliest stamps which is a commemorative stamp produced by India long back. And I have a Meghdut postcard which you can see. This is actually very, very important. And it can, if you have actually more and more of actually afforestation which people are doing, and we can have actually increased carbon capture, especially over the land. And I just wanted to stress a few days. So every year we have actually different days. like your Friendship Day, Father's Day, Mother's Day. So every 2nd of February, we are celebrating actually the World Wetlands Day. And the climate change is one of the most pressing problems facing the humanity, and wetlands and climate change was the theme actually for the World Wetlands Day in 2019. So this is actually a special cover, which actually shows the celebration of the World Wetlands Day in 2021. I won't go into the details of that. Another important day is what we call the World Water Day, which is celebrated every year on 22nd of March. So the first stamp is actually of the state of Qatar, which clearly shows. And the theme of actually that World Water Day 2022 was actually ground marking, making it invisible visible. And the second Meghdut postcard is actually the importance of actually having groundwater. It's very, very precious. In fact, a lot of people don't allow the water to percolate actually into the ground, which is actually not a good idea. They want to put tiles so that their kids does not, or the hands does not get dirty or whatever. So it's actually a bad story. Unless, in fact, I always used to say there are several, even though states get lots and lots of water, they actually does not percolate and recharge the groundwater, but it goes again back into the Arabian Sea. So we need to make or recharge our wells or ponds and so many things, and maybe rivers and such things. So this actually a Meghdut postcard, which is very important. Another important day is actually the World Meteorological Day. And this year's theme is actually the future of weather, climate, and water across various generations. So I have actually put 3 stamps. The first one is actually from Iran. The second one is actually from People's Republic of China. And the third one is actually from the country of Chad. You can see in the first one, you can see the Stevenson screen and cup anemometer. And the second one also, you can see the Stevenson screen, cloud, rains, and so many things. The third one, I think it's actually showing a hygrograph or whatever, again from the country of Chad. Another important day which people have been observing is actually to protect the nature or environment. So every year, starting from 1972 onwards, on 5th of June, we celebrate the World Environment Day. Both the stamps are actually from the Department of Post, Government of India. The first one is actually was released way back in 1977. And the second one is actually a very recent one, actually in 2005. You can see how the need for actually green cities, which is shown actually in the year 2005 stamp, and the first one shows that we need to protect our nature and the earth in the first stamp of actually 1977. As I was just mentioning, every year on the 11th of July, we celebrate the World Population Day, which seeks to focus attention on the urgency and the importance of the population issues. And it was actually planned by the United Nations Development when the whole global population was only 5 billion way back in 1989. Now, this is actually now going out of control. Now, maybe I think maybe about 10 or 11 billion is there actually as of now. I don't know no more than, but it's actually a very nice special cancellation. I just wanted you to show, because I wanted to use different, let us say, philatelic material, like say special cancellation, Meghdut postcard, special covers, block of 4, first day covers, stamps, miniature sheets, and so many things. So this is actually just to show you a World Population Day, this one actually from Mangaluru, or the whole of Karnataka Philatelic Society. Another important day is actually the World Ozone Day. You can see the first stamp is actually of Kazakhstan, you can see. And the theme for that 2022 was actually Montreal Protocol at 35 years. It was actually done way back in 1987, this of 2022. And the second one is the most recent, actually from the Panjim Post Office, you can see. On the 16th of September, 2023, we had actually got a cancellation. This is actually from the Panjim Head Post Office, you can see. Just to make the people aware of the World Ozone Day, not to use actually, or to use CFC-free fridges or whatever, so that the ozone depletion does not take place and more of ultraviolet radiations from the sun does not come into the surface. Now, what can we do from the ocean point of view? I was just mentioning, there can be several mechanisms, especially from the ocean. One can be the wind energy, the wave energy, but one of the most important things which we had thought long back was what the ocean thermal energy conversion. If there is actually substantial difference within a short, let us say, depth, such energy differences can be used to make energy out from the ocean, with what we call OTEC, ocean thermal energy conversion. This was basically planned actually in luxuries in the Indian Ocean, so that the differences between the top or the surface and the temperature at a depth of a very small depth can be used and made it into ocean thermal energy conversion. And another thing is actually, instead of going with the regular roads, I have actually put actually a special cover, which was actually made during Goa Apex 2021 on ferries. Goa, we have lots of ferries. So if water transport can be used instead of the road transport, so it reduces pollution, plus lots of people can be carried, including, so good old days, even to come all the way from Kerala, we used to have actually ferries over Honavar and other places, including over the Kali River. So ferry can actually play a very, very important role, and this ferry carried cover, which is actually this one. So I'm just showing that. And also the coastal and marine ecosystem. It plays a very, very important role, especially from the food point of view. When you think of oceans, one can be the living resources and the non-living resources. So the coastal and marine ecosystem plays a very, very important role, especially from the fisheries or whatever, and the food. Another thing is actually whether if you look at the fisheries or aquaculture, you can see the International Year of Artisanal Fisheries and Aquaculture, that played a very, very important role, especially you can see. And we need to feed, say for example, as more and more population is increasing, we need to have millions of small scale fishers, fish farmers, fish workers to provide healthy, nutritious food to the billions of people all over the world, and especially in contributing to achieving zero hunger. And as I mentioned again, that population control, especially from the, you can do from the family planning point of view. I have actually some stamps on the family planning, which is actually done by the Government of India and Department of Post. I'm going to those details. Now, everywhere it needs cooperation, especially from the international point of view. So way back in 2002, a World Summit was actually done at Johannesburg on sustainable development. So you need to have the political willpower and an implementation plan. So they actually had done it actually, basically they wanted to show there should be a food security, and Africa is one of the most affected regions. In whichever this one we go, they are Africa, forget about South Africa. South Africa is relatively better. If you look at Africa as a whole, as a continent, people don't speak much, but it's one of the most affected during a climate change scenario. So during the Johannesburg World Summit on Sustainable Development, they said that there should be a food security for all, there should be clean environment, and especially for health, there should be water, there should be sanitation, and there should be energy. So this is actually a huge declaration, and these are the stamps which are actually produced by South Africa, and all of them are actually international letter rate. I'm going to that details. And further to that, it started way back in 1992. There was a what we call Earth Summit, which was held actually in Brazil, and had so many achievements to its credit, starting from the Rio Declaration, and they want to have 27 universal principles. They also thought about the United Nations framework for Convention on Climate Change. They also had a convention on biological diversity. They also had a fantastic, this one, on the declaration of the principles of forest management. In fact, I would say it's actually a turning point, especially from the climate change point of view, the Earth Summit, which was held in Rio de Janeiro from 3rd to 14th of June, 1992. Now, the first meeting actually of that UNFCCC or COP1 was actually started way back in Berlin. You can see there is actually a stamp which is actually made in Berlin way back in 1995. That's actually after the reunification of actually both East and West Germany. And then further to that, we always hear about the Kyoto Protocol or maybe whatever. So the COP3 was actually held on 11th of December 1997. That was the first time where the United Nations Convention on Climate Change were wanted to commit, especially the industrialized countries and the economies in transition, to limit and reduce their greenhouse gases in accordance with actually the agreed individual targets. Further to that, we had actually a Paris Agreement. We have actually a round stamp. Both stamps are actually very, very important from the French stamps are there. And it was adapted that 196 parties of the United Nations Climate Change Conference, what we call COP. And this also, the Kyoto Protocol, the Rio, this one, and the COP21 are always referred to again and again. And it came forth in, even though it was actually done on 12th of December 2015, it came into effect on 4th of November 2016. So I think I'll stop here. I'm ready to take a couple of questions from the various people. I'm ready to take questions.
If anyone has any questions, yes, sir. There is a question in the chat box by Sarthak Suman Sahu.
1 minute. Okay, I'll just go to that. Oh. Okay, sorry. Okay, he wanted to know how the sea level rises actually. See, for example, most of the sea level area, coastal areas, whether it's actually the Mumbai coast or the Cochin coast or the Chennai coast or maybe the Calcutta coast are actually, and if the sea level rises, usually the sea level rises maybe a few millimeters, maybe 2 or 3 millimeters in a year. But if there is a global warming or a changed climate scenario or this one, the sea level will substantial this one, and this can have profound influence, especially the coastal, not only erosion, the beaches and so many things. So it will basically, Suman Sahu, it will come actually into the land. Not only that, the intrusion of the saline water even affects our agriculture. Not only the erosion of the coastal areas, it even affects the agriculture and so many things. Not only, I wouldn't say it's actually erosion, but it actually takes or it submerges. Forget about it. I would say it submerges the beaches, it submerges the coastal areas, it submerges the island regions, whether it's the Maldives or let us say Andaman and Nicobar Islands or maybe Lakshadweep. Not only erosion, it submerges that area. Yeah, I think 1 minute. I think I have not shown. There might be some more slides. Should be there. 1 minute. Let me just go back. There should be some more slides. I think I have not shown so many slides. 1 minute. Let me go add some more slides actually on the scientists and sorry. Oh, there are actually some more slides. Just give me 1 minute. No, the stamps were not on. Actually, because I have been removing or whatever. Okay, it's not that. Okay, does not matter. Okay, does not matter. We'll just continue. I expected more questions from lots of people. Especially I'm a meteorologist. You can ask questions on meteorology or oceans or maybe climate change or the greenhouse gases.
So it seems you had such a wonderful lecture that people do not have any doubts.
I don't think so. Ajit Vardhanji can ask. A lot of people can ask. Vardhanji can possibly ask. A lot of students.
I understood, sir, what you're telling.
Huh?
I have understood what you're telling.
Yeah.
No question.
Oh, it's yeah. Sarthak Suman Sahu wanted to know. No, there are different types of clouds. In fact, I wanted to put actually a video on clouds or water. Maybe what I'll do is actually, if time permits, I can actually put 2 videos. But no, this answer is no. we have actually stratus cloud, cumulus cloud, cumulonimbus cloud, and cirrus cloud. Everything gives rain. Okay. Shall I out and try the 2 videos, sir, if possible? If you agree.
Yeah, sir.
Huh?
3 minutes, no? I think you are telling.
Yeah. Actually, I will show a 3-minute video.
One, I think one you can show.
Yeah, I will just try to show one video. So
Okay.
at least let us see what happens. Can you see the video now, sir?
Hello.
Sir,
No,
can you
sir.
see can you see the video?
No.
I will just, okay, I will just,
शेअर स्क्रीन करायला लागेल ना त्यांना.
I think I will do that. Now, can you see?
Now you can share screen is there now. Yes.
I'll just start from the beginning.
Sound, I think, sir.
Yeah, I'll just increase the sound.
Of global scale are registering thousands of years. Climate change. If we don't take action, the collapse of our civilizations and the extinction of much of the natural world is on the horizon. The world's people have spoken. Their message is clear. Time is running out.
The amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere now is 50% higher than it was in 1900. And not only are we finding in more and more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, but we are chopping down the forests of the earth at a great rate. And the forests themselves are the most efficient consumers of carbon dioxide that there are on Earth. We're going to destroy the ground because the soil of a rainforest isn't very good. We are actually tampering with the climate of the Earth and with the very atmosphere that we breathe. When we talk about the disappearance of the ozone layer, we don't know what will happen when the ozone layer goes. The world has become so fragile that we cannot subject the Earth to the tortures we can now inflict upon it. When we talk about the greenhouse effect, we're talking about something that affects the entire Earth. And these problems are life and death problems. They go to the root of the viability of the planet itself. So there's one thing that is biologically certain about the human species is that it is a human species, one species. If we don't stop the destruction of our natural world, nothing else will matter.
Simply put, if we don't protect nature, we can't protect ourselves.
The only way we can solve a problem is by a human solution. Never can we sit back and wait for miracles to save us. Miracles don't happen. Sweat happens. Efforts happens. Thought happens.
I think I have stopped sharing now. You can ask questions. In fact, I have another fantastic video on what will happen if there is actually a 3-degree rise in temperature. We are thinking now of actually 1.1 degrees Celsius or maybe 1.2 we have already reached now. And we wanted to put a cap actually of 1.5 degrees Celsius. I don't know, maybe in no time it will reach. Every year, for example, September 2023 was one of the warmest year of the whole globe. Each year, for example, Goa this year, we had actually the worst floods almost in the second half of July in 76 years. And full of August was actually as good as dry in the last 100 years. Such a scenario has happened in several places. We had actually heat waves, especially in the Europe, US, forest fires, you name anything. Several things have happened in the year 2023. And some of the places like say Turkey, they had actually temperatures, or Iran, they had the temperatures of about 40 or 50 degrees Celsius. Can you imagine? Such things have actually happened. Okay, now over to you. Any more questions?
I think there is one more thing somebody has asked in chat.
Okay, yeah, this is a very good question. Renewable energies are so expensive, how can we use it? That's a real true question. For example, if you look at the solar energy or solar cells or whatever, in fact, the technology and such things actually should be shared. In fact, some people are actually holding to it. I'll tell you, there are several instances where people don't want to share unless the developed countries are not ready to share with the developing countries or whatever. This will, what you said is very, very true. For example, even the fuel, for example, people want everybody to go to electric. Instead of electric, if you can go to hydrogen. Now in Delhi or somewhere, they have planned to start actually some hydrogen bus or maybe hydrogen train. So instead of going directly to electric, if you can think of actually hydrogen as a fuel, maybe it will be all right. But then, as you said, it needs a lot of commitment. Basically, this commitment should have been coming actually from the developed countries. That's why we said that there should be international cooperation. Whether it's actually, the whole thing started, as I said, Rio, way back in 1992. We are almost 31 years later. People, in fact, Trump came out of that actually, this one. When he was actually the president of USA, he came out of actually this, all the parties meeting. So people, unless they have the commitment and they need to implement, there are several countries which are actually implementing. For example, Bhutan, I would say is actually a best place actually to this one. There is actually, I would say, zero or neutral this one. China is doing so many things, especially from the wind energy point of view. A lot of countries are actually doing, especially from the renewable energy point of view. Maybe India also can do a lot of things, and India is also doing. I'm not saying that India is not doing, whether it's the wind or maybe solar energy. One good example I can tell you is actually in Cochin, there's an international airport called SIA, Nedupasheri. It is fully run on solar energy. And it has won several awards popularly for this one. So it can be done, and we have shown that it can be done, and it needs to be done. Maybe we are going at a, I should not say snail's pace, but we can pick up and do much more with better technologies and better this one. It needs to be done or replicated in almost all the places, especially places like say Rajasthan and Gujarat, which hardly has actually that solar energy can be put to good use, and other places also can do it. Thank you.
May I ask you one question?
Yes, please.
I'm Mrs. Rajani Sohoni. I want to please elaborate about the effect of wars on the climate.
Oh. That's a very tricky and sensitive question. But madam, forget about wars. Even a small disturbance actually it affects. So wars, as you correctly mentioned, now whether you look at the Ukraine-Russia war, which has been going for, I should not say ages, I think it's more than a year now. It can have lots of repercussions, starting from energy. Food grains, most of the food grains used to come actually from either Ukraine or Russia. Energy used for us, our oil used to come from Russia. Everything gets affected. And there are so many equations and so many things are happening. So each, I don't think any war for that matter is a good idea. In fact, that's what the Marpapa said the other day. He said that no war, whether between Israel and Palestine now, or maybe Hamas or whatever, no war is actually a victory or whatever. Francis Marpapa correctly mentioned that. What he said is very true. no war is actually victory. So his statement was very true, and that you cannot win. Whether see now 1 year there is actually war keeping on going, and how many lives are lost? Whether the Ukraine life or Russian life or Palestine life or Israel life, or maybe a lot of, in fact, lot of people have actually had gone there for pilgrimage in Israel or so many places. They have not done anything wrong. So I would say even small things, forget about that. Even the volcanic eruptions, each and everything has actually tremendous repercussions actually on the climate change. This will put more particulate matter in the atmosphere. It can churn, it can put more pressure, especially on the food grains, on the water, on the, you name anything, energy. And what should have been used? I will put it the other way around. What should have been used actually for a better environment or a better this one? It's actually, I should say, used for destructive or unproductive purposes. I'll put it that way. That's a better way of putting it. See, by destroying buildings or tanks or maybe whatever, what do we gain? Instead of the same amount of energy and the money or economy can be put, maybe as the earlier gentleman was asking about renewable energies, the same amount of money can be pumped in either by Israel or by Palestine or maybe Russia or Ukraine for a better crop or for better agriculture or for better energy. If the same amount of money which they have shelled out, we would have a much better place for living. I hope I have answered you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Can I say something, sir?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Let me first thank you for the very informative lecture.
May I know who is speaking, madam?
I am Sudha.
Oh, hello, madam. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good, sir. I'm good.
Good to see you, madam, after a long time.
Yes. I got a little late because there was some glitch. Thank God it was not there yesterday.
Okay.
You know, that one gentleman was asking about renewable energy, and you spoke about hydrogen. Today, just at 4:30, there was a lecture in GSI Karnataka about the geological hydrogen, a new frontier in carbon free renewable energy, hope or hype. This was given by Sukumar. So very, what you were talking, just same thing. Probably he will share the synopsis of his talk. If it is there, then I will share with
now that you mentioned, you being a geologist, we have actually hydrothermal vents, madam. Hydrothermal vents.
Yes.
Energy and all these things. So what you said is true. Being a geologist, I think Pathak sir or what also, hydrothermal vents actually they're actually in the Andaman Nicobar Islands.
Yes, but those are not. I don't think there are. One of the best ones actually, like you said, thermal energy.
Hydrogen is ideal. I would go for hydrogen given a choice.
Hydrogen, yes.
Yeah. Thank you, madam. Thank you. Nice to see you. Nice to see you.
Yes, and sir, Kerala, there are also boats which are run on only thermal energy.
Yeah. Correct.
It's nice.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
You have a wonderful collection, sir.
Oh, thank you. Because next time I am planning to make climate change as my topic in the thematic thing and maybe put, because one is actually, in fact, as Vaishnavi correctly mentioned, most of the stamps can actually tell a story, and if we can propagate, in fact, we should use the stamps as actually a nice tool. And Pathak sir is actually already doing it. Most of our people are doing. Abhay is doing, and almost all the people in this group are actually using stamps as actually a tool. Unfortunately, I couldn't listen to Nicole Sequeira. I was tied up with this one. I am sure she would have given a fantastic presentation on oceans. Wonderful presentation on oceans. Any other question?
One more thing, Ramesh Kumar sir, you have used maximum Indian philatelic material. That is very important.
Sir, we have to use that.
Yes, correct. But to find out all these things is not that easy job.
Sir, as I said, no.
Collection.
Yeah. Now, my next venture is actually to make this one. And nowadays, I have started collecting Meghdut postcards. Meghdut postcards are actually fantastic things.
Yes, and because that is very rare part. Meghdut postcard is very rare.
So I thought I'll do Meghdut postcards, and I have seen so many people are doing, and they have fantastic things on energy, groundwater, you name everything. So I would like to I would like to thank Vaishnavi, who actually started with the philately or whatever wonderful way she has done. I hope she is a stamp collector, by the way. Vaishnavi.
No, sir, now she will start collecting. After this series of lectures, she will start collecting.
You gave a very nice introduction. You should start collecting. Ajit Pathak sir is there, and we have my own colleague, Abhay Mudolkar is there. He is into volcanoes, birds, you name anything. He is collecting so many things. Okay. Halley's Comet also is collecting.
Sir, where can I purchase this Meghdut postcards?
Okay. I can give you a few postcards next time when I come, because for our
Please
recent Goa Liberation, this one, we have actually that 60th, this one, celebration of actually Goa Liberation. We had a Meghdut postcard, which I can give you. And I may have, whatever I have extra.
I will purchase it from you.
Yeah, I can send it to you, madam. Done. No questions asked. I'll with a new special cancellation. Maybe if you send me that your address, I will send it tomorrow on National Philately Day. That is actually 11th October only. I'll send it to you with a nice special cancellation.
Wow, that's a treat. Thank you.
I will do it there. No problem. You can you have my number now. You have my number.
Yes.
I will send a Meghdut postcard tomorrow itself with that special cancellation of World Postal Day, 11th October. Tomorrow itself I'll send one, madam.
Interesting. That's nice. Thank you, sir.
Most welcome. I think Vaishnavi, you should start collecting.
Yes, definitely, sir. Definitely.
Ajit Vartak is Ajit Vartak sir is there. Abhay Mudolkar is there. There are a lot of people in Pune. And I would say that Madam Colonel's wife, I forgot her name.
Datta.
Correct. She also has a good collection.
Definitely, sir. On this special occasion, I'll definitely start collecting.
Yeah.
Any more people? Any more questions?
No, I don't think that.
No. Sir, thank you for showcasing how this seemingly simple hobby can actually shed light on the profound challenges which our planet is facing today. Exploring climate change through the captivating world of philately not only depends on the understanding of this global climate issue, but also serves a powerful reminder of how collective responsibility it is for us to address it. So thank you, Ramesh sir, for that. Thank you everyone for your enthusiasm and dedication for learning. Tomorrow we have lecture by Dr. Ajit Vartak from Pune on fossils, natural heritage and philately. We would like to request all participants to use the same link for all sessions of Earth Science Week. All sessions can also be viewed on Mission Devrai YouTube channel. Till then, thank you everyone.